We are heading to the championship rounds.
Going into the championship round. This is it now, championship rounds.
This is the Championship Rounds podcast, episode 8, and today I'm joined by professional mixed martial artist Aaron Aby. Aaron has the most incredible story. Aaron has suffered with cystic fibrosis from birth and has always defied the odds with his incredible 1 in a million mentality. Despite being told he'd never play sports, went on to play football at an international level and become the professional mixed martial artist we know him as today. Aaron talks to me about his entire mixed martial arts career, dealing with cystic fibrosis, his life-threatening hospitalization, and gives a true insight into his mixed martial arts tagline, fighting to breathe. This is my conversation with the inspiring Aaron Aby. I'm here with Aaron. How you doing, man?
I'm alright, yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, man. The reason I started this podcast originally is I wanted to talk about stories that add some sort of substance and a meaning, inspiring, and I think your stories definitely fits the bill there. So, you know, your tagline in MMA is fighting to breathe, and that's reflective of your fight with cystic fibrosis. So could you talk a little bit about what that is and how it affects you personally and sort of your earliest memories and experiences of coming to terms with a condition?
So I was diagnosed, I think, like 2 weeks in with cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis is an inherited genetic disease where you get two faulty genes, one from each parent, which causes the condition. The condition affects the lungs, the digestive system, your bones. So that was what I was diagnosed with at birth. And then my first experience of really coming to terms with it was probably when I was about 14, 15 in school. It took so long for me to get to that point to come to terms with it. I think the way just my mum and dad brought me up, and you know, they treated me normal. They made me be like all my friends, do whatever I want. I used to think that every kid used to take tablets in the morning and have their physio and nebulizer, and it was only until I was like 14 and in school we were studying biology, where we were actually studying cystic fibrosis, and one of the teachers said, you know, most cystic fibrosis have a lifespan of 16 years old. And I was like, oh crap, I've got that. So it was only then when I went home and started talking to my parents about it that really I understood what I'd had and what I'd been growing up with, because growing up before that I just thought I was like every other kid.
Yeah, that must have been really scary to deal with at that age especially. And I watched a sort of documentary on you on YouTube called Fighting to Breathe, and I think it was your dad who said that they never let cystic fibrosis control you, that you controlled it. And I thought that was a really nice way of putting it. And they talked a lot about that you've always been into sports since you were younger, and I heard that you played a lot of football when you were younger and you were pretty good. And didn't you make it into sort of Welsh development?
Yeah, I played for Wales as a kid growing up. Like with the likes of like Aaron Ramsey, Neil Taylor, Joe Allen. That was like my first love. My first sport was football, and that was the thing. Yeah, when I grew up, it was, you know, cystic fibrosis. We never let it control anything. We looked out for it, but it was always secondary to me and what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be. You know. The research back then and the advice from the hospital was not to let people with cystic fibrosis exercise because of the pressure it would put on the lungs. But we always went the opposite way and just let me exercise, do everything my friends did. You know, I was playing sport every night. I'd get home from school, we'd go meet up on like the park. We'd hang out until like 8, 9, just being physically active, playing games. And I was always actually the fittest in my group or the fittest in my team. and I think that come from an early age. We didn't want to go because obviously my parents knew at the time the negatives of cystic fibrosis, obviously the lifespan of cystic fibrosis. So we didn't want to follow that trend and just become one of those statistics. So we tried to do things differently, and I think that's what gave me an advantage.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible way of looking at it. I saw a post on Twitter earlier about a little girl with the same condition as you, and I think she just won a world title in kickboxing for her age group. So it's really inspiring to see that sort of thing. But in terms of your football, why couldn't you pursue her any further? Did they I heard that they didn't give you a contract strictly because of your condition, and sort of how did that feel at the time, and how did you sort of reflect on that? That must have been pretty hard to deal with.
Yeah, obviously, growing up, and you always think, oh, you're going to be a footballer. And I was the captain of my team at the time. I was the top goal scorer. If anyone had to play for the older age group, it was me. Along with one other lad, we got moved up to play for the upper age group, and then obviously just went in on that contract day. And to get told that was, obviously I was hurt and shocked from it, but everything happens to a reason, and it pushed me into a different sport.
Yeah, it did. And how did you make that transition to MMA? Like, how old were you? When did you first start training MMA? And have you always been a massive fan of the sport?
Well, yeah. My uncle was taking a class, and he started taking it for charity and for cystic fibrosis. And at the time, I was playing for Wrexham. I was living with my dad, and my dad started going, and I started going with him. So I'd be training in the day, football, and then I started mixed martial arts at night, and then it was once a week become twice a week become 3 times a week, and then I just obviously found the love for it through that way. And the more I did it, the more I wanted to keep doing it. But that's how I got into it.
Awesome. So when did you first transition into taking amateur bouts, and did you did your condition pose any problems with that early on?
No, like I said, obviously I competed at international level in football, and I was winning cross country, and I was North Wales 3,000 metre champion. So I could always compete at the top level at that age for sport. So I started competing in the grappling strike comps, which were no headshots, which were 2-3 competitions in one day from 17. So I started doing them then while I was playing football, and then just kept building up from that, and then getting involved into the semi-pro rules, which were headshots on the feet, and then just building it from there.
Cool. And I think there was a point where you had to go in for a bowel operation that I heard that went well, but then it was followed with some serious complications, including your lungs collapsing. Is that true?
Yeah, so when I was 21, I started having stomach pain just one night in work, and I went in and they found I had a blockage in my stomach, which needed a foot of my colon removed. So when I had that done, after that, because of the effects of the drugs and the morphine from the operation, that caused my lungs to collapse, which was another complication from the operation.
You were in high dependency, and I think when I watched the documentary, you said you thought you were gonna die at the time. How was it? I can't imagine being in a situation like that. What was going through your mind at the time?
It was obviously tough. I was told I wouldn't fight again, and stupidly enough, that was one of the only things going through my head was whether I'd be able to compete again. But you just learn. I remember I had a conversation and sort of feeling sorry for myself, and my dad was suck it up. You're going to have to, this is one of the first things I remember, you're going to have to stop doing sorry for yourself and just start fighting it. That's the only way you're going to make yourself better. And from that day onwards, I was at the hospital then in a week, back walking. But that was like the change in my mindset. And, because that's what I think sometimes you get diagnosed with stuff or you get ill and you feel sorry for yourself and then you just make it worse by doing that. And I think mindset plays a big part on health, a big part on your lifestyle. So as soon as I switched that to being positive and fighting it like I fought everything else, that's how I got my recovery back and started to aim towards, putting goals in place that I wanted to reach to motivate me, and that's what helped me get better.
Yeah, I did a lot. One of the main themes in that documentary on you was your mentality, and I think it was your dad who was saying that he always used to tell you that if you believed that you were going to get better, then that was really what was going to make you better. And I think it was your friend Mike, I think his name was, who said that, he was baffled by how positive you were throughout the whole thing, and that all you wanted to do was get back to training. And when you were eventually back in training, that you had like a new sort of found motivation, and you were even more technically gifted afterwards than you were going into it. So when you came out of it, was that whole ordeal just an even bigger inspiration to get back in the octagon? And how soon was it before you were fighting again?
Yeah, like it's when I've had it all my life, like people saying you can't do this, you can't do that, and that's always motivated me more. So when people told me I wouldn't be able to fight again, that was just the motivation. And I think I come back more technically gifted, as like Mike put it, is because I was just thinking about the sport. And also, like, when I train, I'm always training, so maybe I give my body a little time to rest and my mind time to suck up new information by watching stuff. I'm still studying the sport, and then obviously coming back with that motivation, being told that I won't be able to fight again, just encouraged me and inspired me to push on and do those things. And then obviously I think I fought 9 months after the operation, I think it was. I had my first bout back and I ended up winning, and it was a tough fight. I remember I think I fought at 62 kilogram and I was weighing like 60 kilogram, and my opponent missed weight and was weighing like 65, 66 kilogram. So like from the start, it was always a tough fight. That the odds were against me, and he was a good level opponent as well. But yeah, that was always a motivation, and I like you just spoke about. That's what the mindset brings.
Yeah, so that's that's unbelievable. What a quick turnaround. You see people who have far less injuries to deal with, and they take much more time off. So it's crazy how fast you go back in there. And so how long ago was that fight now? And how active have you been since? I know you had a fight. Was it in September? Was your last one?
Yeah, so that was that first fight back. I was just turned 21 or 22, so I was still an amateur at that time. And now I've obviously had 13. I had a couple more amateur fights after that, and now I've had 30 fights as a professional. So I'm constantly active. I don't really take time off. I like to get like 3 or 4 fights in a year. I've had 3 fights this year. I was hoping for 4, but it's not looking likely. And I think that's part of the thing, because I don't get out of shape, and like I live as a martial artist, and part of my lifestyle. It's just not about the fighting, so it's like staying ready and competing as often as possible. So I think that helps me. But yeah, my last fight was September in ACB. I've had 3 fights with them this year, 3 wins. So it's been a good year. And the last one I got to avenge a loss, which a guy I lost to early on in my pro career. So I got to fight him again and avenge that loss.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. That must be the sweetest feeling to avenge a loss like that. I think you 10-3 as a pro now?
Yeah, 10-3 as a pro now. I had a couple of early losses early on. And like I said, I've got to avenge one of them.
Awesome. So what, in terms of your MMA career, what are your goals from this point out? I mean, you're 10-3 as a pro. You know, you're well known on that sort of scene that you're on at the moment. What are your plans going forward, and do you have any like ultimate goals that you want to reach in your MMA career?
Obviously, I just want to keep growing, keep fighting on the best shows, keep fighting the best people, keep competing against the tough guys, and like out of just being a personal goal for myself, just the bigger stage I get on, the more awareness and the more hope I can give to other people that no matter what setbacks you get, no matter what cards you dealt, you know, you can still keep living your dreams, still keep doing the things you want, still keep achieving stuff. You know, personally, obviously, I want to get to the top, but I feel like my aim and why I was put on this earth was to inspire other people, and I feel like, you know, that's what I was put here to do, and I think that's the path I've been given, is outside of myself, just showing other people that no matter what, that they can still live a good life, not feel sorry for themselves, just be positive and just work towards what they want. And I think that's probably my main goal now, outside of a selfish point of view, it is to inspire other people.
Yeah, that's what I love so much about your career, is that when you fight, it's not so much just, you know, whether it's the win or loss, it's the sort of what you're trying to promote through it, and that like your fight in the octagon is like, it's a representation of your fight, you know, your entire life and what people go through. And I know when you fight, it always brings, you know, more awareness to the cause to people who aren't so familiar with it. I know that's how I heard about the cause. I wasn't too clued up on cystic fibrosis until I started hearing about your story and your fights and your documentary. So that's a really cool gift that you can give. So at the moment you're still actively training and, you know, looking to push on in 2018.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I find like I live as well. So moving forward, you know, I keep a good pace, relentless pressure. That's how I live as well. So I'm always training, staying ready. Looking for. I want to be as active as possible every year for as long as I can compete in the sport, and then obviously just build the profile, build the awareness, and give hope to other people that way. Yeah,
cool. Like I think that, you know, I'd love to see your profile get lifted, and I think it's a story that a lot of people need to hear. And so in terms of, you know, one thing that's always fascinated me about MMA, I've been a fan for as long as I can remember, and I do a lot of, I train kickboxing and things like that, but I could never imagine, you know, being in that situation, being in that cage, and that anticipation leading up to the cage. And mindset has always been something that's fascinated me about the sport. Maybe that's why I gravitate to it so much. So leading up to a fight, you know, through your training camp or the night before, how hard is that on a fighter mentally? And do you think that, you know, the battles you've gone through way bigger battles in your life? So do you think that helps you, you know, in a mental place leading up to a fight, thinking, well, I've come through a lot worse, so this isn't so bad?
Yeah, definitely. I think like mental's a big part of sport, but it's also an even bigger part of life and an even bigger part of fighting conditions. Being born with certain scenarios, so when I'm going into a fight, you know, it's not the same as when you're battling for your life, or you had that life-challenging experience. You know, like a lot of people were talking about the last fight, and there was a lot of drama coming up to the fight. Like some personal things were said, like if I'll be fighting to walk, never mind fighting to breathe, and stuff like that. And people were like asking me about it, and like, is it being pressure? And it just excited me, because when you've been through a other things outside of MMA, and which are more important. That mental side of the sport, which is in fact a fighting sport. It definitely relates to fighting for your life and fighting a condition. I think it actually gives me an advantage.
Yeah, definitely. When you look at the bigger picture like that, I feel that walking to the cage isn't such a big deal for you as it is to other fighters. But honestly, man, your story's incredible, and I hope a lot more people get to hear about it. That's why I wanted to have you on, and I wanted to say a big thank you as well, because I've reached out to a lot of fighters, and a lot of them have either not replied or been a bit thing with me. So you're actually the first fighter who's given me their time to speak to me. So I'm really grateful for that, man.
Yeah, no problem. Like I said earlier, it's about spreading awareness and giving other people hope. So anytime you want me on, give me a shout and I'll get on.
Honestly, man, thank you so much. So before you go, where anyone listen to this on iTunes or anything like that, where can they find you or find out more about the cause?
So you can find me on Facebook, Aaron AB, Twitter, and Instagram, Aaron AB MMA. You can, if anyone ever needs to give me a shout or ask me about cystic fibrosis, feel free to give me a message. I'll always reply.
Awesome, man. That's really nice. Like you're one of the coolest dudes I've ever spoken to. So honestly, man. Yeah. And you, man. I'll speak to you again.
Right. See you later.
So there we are. That was my conversation with Aaron AB. I'm going to leave links in the description with all his social medias, how you can find him, how you can find out more about cystic fibrosis. And I'm going to leave links to the website where you can donate to the cause. And please do. I'm definitely going to be donating. I want to say a massive thank you to Aaron again for coming on. This has been my favourite episode I've ever done of this podcast so far. And when I started out with this podcast, this is the sort of content I wanted to be making. And I'm so proud to be able to speak to people like Aaron. And I really can't wait to speak to him again in the future. So thank you for tuning in. If you're listening on iTunes, subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, go and subscribe on iTunes. Thank you.